I'd like to thank the grace of them, the virtues of masters, and the compassion and mercy of the grand predecessors, senior transmitters, lecturers, temple masters, everybody for giving me this opportunity today to talk about today's topic, which is chapter 63 of the Tao Te Ching, okay, the classic way. Chapter 63 is title, the chapter title is Without Difficulty, or Fountainhead Source. You can say Fountainhead Source. It's about medium length chapter, 3 sections. Okay, the intro or the thesis proposition, then here's the analysis or the main section, and then the conclusion. Okay. All right, so it's not too long. I'm gonna finish it in probably 70 minutes or so. All right. Okay. This chapter is linked to chapter 64. So this chapter is going to make some, provide some general principles, and then 64 will elaborate on some of them. Okay. All right, so that's the little preview here. Okay, let's go to 63. All right, so the first 3 lines or 3 phrases, it's act without action, manage without meddling, taste without tasting. The translation could be better, but it's it's going to get too wordy. So this is kind of pithy, short, terse, but we'll explain it. Okay, the key phrase is this term here. Okay, this term for the first phrase, second phrase, third phrase. Okay, so, all right, so, we know what wu wei should be by now. Okay, it means unattached. I mean, that's the, so you can translate act with unattached actions. I mean, that's, so it's kind of awkward sounding. So, okay. So the literal is, just act without action. That's literal. That's the literal translation. All right. But you have to understand what wu wei means. What's without action? What is without action? It's, non-conditioned. Okay. It's unconditional actions, actions without agenda, attention, contrivance, subjective considerations. Okay. So, all right. So sometimes, you have people refer as non-active action or active non-action. Okay. All right. I mean, sometimes that's how they refer to that term, but it doesn't not mean not action, okay, or no action. All right, which a lot of the translations are like that. All right. Okay. So basic meaning is this: it means to act without excessive actions, without overdoing something, or without attachment. Okay. So that's, but it does not mean to do nothing. Now, sometimes any type of action would be considered excessive, okay, or not, or uncalled for, or not necessary. So that's when there is no action. That's true, but that's only one a portion, less than half. Okay, less than half. So that's why you don't translate it as not to do anything, or non-action, or not to do it. All right. So that's when you take no action, okay? But most of the time, you need to do something, just enough, and then let it be. Don't overdo. That's the notion of moderation built into this, okay? Baked into this idea, okay? So it's not to say you don't do anything at all, because that's one extreme, right? Or you totally get involved and become excessive. So that's the other extreme, right? So that's what wu wei also implies here, okay? All right. So additional is, on the contrary, the flip side, action that is conditioned, that is your way, is to have the self and contrivance, right? That's where, that's the other side, okay, of wu wei, right? Okay. So the further understanding is to act without action is to take non-attached, non-conditioned action that is non-contrived. Okay, that means without intent, that, or, striving, right? Or attempting, striving, and without agenda. So this is the purest form of action, which is drive striving. Okay, so I should have put a note here, but, just recall chapter 38 talks about, non-action also. Well, it talks about high benevolence, high virtue, right? High benevolence, low virtue, stuff like that. Okay, but it's based on wu wei. All right. Okay. So that's the first phrase. So the second phrase is, how do you manage without meddling? Okay. So now this 无视, okay, literally means no involvement or nothing to do. That's a 无视, nothing. If people ask you, what are you doing? You say 无视, you have nothing to do. Okay, that's literally, that's what it means. Okay, in the vernacular today. But in during Lao's time, it means not to be involved or without excessive interference, or not to interfere, non-interference, non-issue, okay? So it's parallel to relinquishment or letting go, okay, and simplicity. All right, so the basic meaning of second phrase means to deal with matters or manage affairs without constant interference or meddling. Now, it does not mean to manage without managing or manage by not managing. That's what, some translations you'll come across. They say manage by not managing, okay? It's like, saying like action by non-action, stuff like that. Okay, so that's not what it means. Okay, so in this context, meddling means micromanagement. Backseat driver, trying to do everything yourself. Smothering you. Overbearing. That type of thing. Okay, so that's what it means. Okay, by meddling. Okay, all right. Okay, another meaning is managing means planning, delegating, and following up, but not constant interference or micromanagement or, smothering you or overbearing. Okay, that's what I mean. Okay, all right. So further understanding is, now, when we manage the affairs of the world, we don't let selfishness arise. That's very important. Okay, let the ego arise. Okay, because that already follows from the first phrase, right? We say wu wei, right? To act without acting, okay, right? That means, right? Remember, there's no contrivance, no subjective consideration, right? Okay, so so that's the broadest level. Then we come to, managing without meddling. Okay, so that's the next level. Further refinement of the first phrase. Wu wei is the broad, very broad. To act, he's just saying doing anything, right? Now he's saying, now we're talking about managing, you're planning stuff, doing, specific stuff. Okay. So that's what, okay, at this, further, more specific, a little bit more narrow. Okay. All right. Now let's go to the third phrase, which is, much more specific. There's a meaning for wei. Wei means literally means to taste or flavor. It could be a verb or a noun. Okay, but in this case, it doesn't literally mean to taste something. With your mouth or using your mouth to taste something. It doesn't mean that. Okay. Oops. Sorry. Okay. Doesn't mean that. It means in this case to understand or know a specific, situation or thing. So it's much narrower. So we're going from the broad, very broad, okay, very broad, right? Broad, general, a little bit more specific, and then much more specific. Okay, so that's the sequence. Okay, the logic. Okay, the sequence. All right, that's what Lao Tzu is setting up. Okay, this his proposition, his thesis. Okay, so that's what wei. Okay, wei in this case means not to taste. I mean, even though it does mean that. Okay, that's a little thing, but there's a deeper meaning. Deeper meaning of wei. It just means it's a metaphor for physical pleasures in general. So it's more, it's generic in that, but it's more specific in terms of just physical things. Okay, so like one's taste in various aspects, like command that's over. Okay, so that's a little bit more, much narrower. Okay, meaning. Okay. Now, wu wei literally does mean flavorless or tasteless, but it just means not to be attracted, attached, and addicted to the sensory pleasure. So that's a further more specific definition of Wei. Okay. So you can say, yeah, on a very narrow spec, you can say, yeah, we can partake, of physical play, participate in physical things, dealing with the senses, but not to be attached to that. Okay, so that's a very, very specific, narrow definition or interpretation of this line. But a little bit broader, because it comes down from dealing with managing, dealing with matters, being a little bit narrower level, step down from that, it means what? Taste, in this case, means to know or understand what the situation is. Get an idea, okay? Get to the flavor of a situation without losing objectivity. The flavor, get an idea, a taste, right? A taste of the situation, a taste of without losing your objectivity, without being attached or addicted, right? To something, to some aspect of the situation, because that means you lose your objective. You're no longer at viewing it as in a non-attached, non-conditioned manner, right? So in this third phrase, to taste, it says taste without tasting, does not mean to taste by not tasting, literally. Okay, it does not mean that. Right? So some translations translate like that. Taste by not tasting. So it's like saying, whoa, what is it? I can taste without tasting it. Okay, so that's not what it means. Okay, so another meaning is that in this context, tasting means to become too attached or too immersed in a situation where you lose yourself, your objectivity, etc., etc. All right, so that's a little bit more broader take of what this is, what we say earlier, right? Remember, not to be attracted, attached, or addicted to the sensory pleasures of the material world, right? So it flows, it parallels to, in this case, means not to be too attached, immersed, or addicted to the situation where you lose yourself, right? Your objectivity, okay? So it's parallel, all right? It's the same principle, parallel, okay? All right, or corollary, okay? So tasting connotes being too attached to something where you lose your non-conditioned state. Okay, that's what you don't want to do. Okay, that's what you want to avoid. All right, that's what Lao Tzu is saying. All right, so further understanding is being too attached or immersed in something means you will likely forget what are the important things in life. Yeah, that's the greatest danger or pitfall, potential trap. Okay, so this flows from the first two phrases on being non-conditioned, detached, and not fall into extremes or moderation, right? Okay, so it flows right from the first two phrases, right? So okay, all right. So the deeper understanding is with non-attached or non-conditioned actions, there's nothing that is done with conditions. Okay, with agendas, conditions. Okay, that state of non-conditioned action is our Buddha nature essence. Okay, so that's the general understanding. The more specific is that we have to deal with material matters, but do not become attracted, attached, or addicted to the worldly pleasures. Okay, so that's more on an individual level. Okay, first one is more on the broad level. Okay, so the higher understanding is that unattached or non-conditioned actions are the natural state of our Buddha nature. Okay, that's its natural state. It's unperturbed, non-conditioned state, where nothing that is done conditionally or non-conditioned is nothing that cannot be done. So sometimes everything is possible, okay? Whatever that should be done is done unconditionally, okay? That's the natural manifestation. We say the manifestation, right? At one, the oneness, the manifestation of the oneness is this. That's this. Okay? So that's what it is. It's not done conditionally, okay? Or has conditions, right, or attachments, okay? All right, so the implication is a non-attached action is the highest form of action because they flow directly from our Buddha nature without contrivance or agenda, without intent, neither intent or reason, without needing a reason, or without agenda means there's a goal, right? You have an agenda, right? A goal in mind, okay, or objective in mind, okay? So this is the highest form of action where you have completely vanished into their action. So you and the action are one, okay? There's no sense of self, only oneness with the activity, where the action seems timeless, okay? You feel as if you are doing nothing and has done everything. That's what that timeless means, that there's no no distinction between before and after. Okay, that's what it is. So it's like in the moment. Okay, all right. Okay, so yet all the appropriate actions at work, everything's done and nothing remains done. Okay, so that's that very abstract description. All right. Okay, so the key is to act directly with what comes out directly from our Buddha nature essence. That's the key, okay? So this is called to act without action. That's what it means. That's what Lao Tzu is saying, to act without action, where nothing is done conditionally. This means in managing affairs, there's no selfishness. There's no, right, consideration of the self, right? Okay, or ego, okay? Where you can understand a situation without becoming too attached and emotionally involved that you lose your detachment objectively. That's the taste without taste. Okay, maybe I should write it down here, but that's the tasting without tasting. Managing affairs with no servant, that's to manage without meddling, right? Okay, so this is how the Tao works, whereby being non-conditioned and detached, we can do everything well without being selfish, contrived, overly emotional, or zealous. So we can deal with worldly matters, but not become attached to material pleasures. Okay? All right, so that's the first line, first three phrases, first line, okay? That's a very important line. Once you understand this, actually everything else then flows, okay? All right, okay. The next line in the first section, okay, the next two phrases it's this. It's kind of interesting. So it's like, it's saying great, small, many, few. Respond to hatred with virtue. What does this have to do with this or the previous line? Well, okay, we'll see. All right. Basic meaning is this. What he's saying, you see, I mean, literally, this is translated literally, great, small, many, few. Okay. All right. So basic is this. Now it flows from the first line in this manner, in this way. Okay. So no matter what you do in life, from the first one, right? At first line of how we deal with things, right? Big things, little things, whether working with many things or few things, the Tao approach is always the same. The approach is always the same. The principle applies. In other words, it's universal. From the principle meaning from the first line, the first three phrases. Get it? Okay. So that's okay. So that ties to that. Okay, great. Small, many, yeah, few. Now some people translate it as, I mean, like in James Legg's. I mean, other besides him too. But he says, to consider what is small as great and what is few as many. That's wrong. That's twisting it around. Okay, that Lao Tzu never said that. Okay, he didn't say to treat small as great or few as many. No, it doesn't mean that. Okay, so you just be careful. All right. Okay, don't over strain, over interpret. Okay, or interpret. Okay, so another way of saying it, I'm talking about first phrase now, right? Okay, where tasks are great, small, many, or few, we approach them in the same way. All right, same idea. The Tao is the same, so the principles are the same. So the way we approach whether things are big, small, many, or few, doesn't matter, okay? It's the same method. It's the same principle, okay? All right, now comes the second phrase, which is, what do we do? Respond to hatred with virtue? How did this pop up? Okay, now he's getting more specific, all right? So yuan, it means, resentment. It can mean resentment too, okay? Or hatred, grievance, okay? Okay, so the basic meaning of the second phrase is this. Now, it flows from the first phrase here, the previous, about the great, small, many, few. He's saying in all aspects of your life, okay, at some point in your life, there will be situations where you will encounter negativity in matters big or small, many or few. All right, so that's where it comes in. That he's saying that, remember, so it flows from the first three phrases, he's saying, here's the general principles of how the Tao works. And then now how does it apply to us in our life? Well, we're going to encounter in life, either big things, small things, many things, or few things, right? Or, all types of stuff, basically all different things. But in all these different things that we encounter, there will be times when we will encounter either hatred, resentment, negativity, just negativity. Let's substitute hatred for negative. Just nothing. It's not positive, right? That's what Lao Tzu is saying, warning us that, hey, in life, that's reality. That's what's going to happen. Now, how do you respond to that, react to that negativity? Well, he's saying the best is to do it with virtue. And that's consistent with how the Tao works. Okay? Remember the last chapter? The profound or marvelous Tao, or, what? The Tao does not abandon anyone, right? Even the most unvirtuous or non-virtuous person, right? Same idea, okay? The Tao doesn't find fault with them. The Tao doesn't discriminate against them, okay? Causality might, but that's causality, okay? It's actually also based on non-sentiments, based on purely action and result, or cause and result, okay? So causation or causality, okay? But the Tao doesn't, fault you or discriminate against them, right? So same idea here. So it flows from that idea, that principle, all right? Okay, so so that's what we say basic, okay? There will be situations where we encounter negativity, okay? Now, so then to extend to that is that by being detached and non-conditioned, we will not let our egos and emotions arise. That comes from the first three phrases, first line. Then we can respond to negativity with a calm state of mind. Okay. Now, so Lao Tzu would call that virtue. Okay. So by being non-conditioned and not emotionally attached, we can deal with the negativity in a calm and detached manner and respond with the virtues of our Buddha nature. Right? So that flows from the first three phrases, right? Okay, to this. All right. So he's getting more specific now. He's going to say, yeah, here's what the Tao principles are, the first three phrases, how you go down. But then, in life, whether big, small, many, or few, right? Whatever, whatever situation, things, people, etc., okay, things, task, or whatever, we're going to encounter negativity. That's in this case, hatred, we say hatred, negativity, that's reality. Okay. All right. But how do you respond to that negativity? You have to respond it through virtue. And how that virtue comes about? Because from the first three phrases, you have to be non-conditioned, non-emotional, non-attached, etc., right? Okay. Makes sense. Now it flows. Okay. Flows. All right. So further understanding of second phase is, this can only happen if we cultivate the Tao consistently. If we're not enlightened yet, okay, let's say we're not, okay, so then that can only work if, or will only happen this way if we can cultivate the Tao consistently and frequently. So by doing so, we can set an example for that. Now, chapter 64, we'll talk a little bit about the consistency aspect, okay? All right, 64. Remember, I said 63, 64 are linked or connected. Okay, so the implication is this. In doing things, whether big, small, many, or few, Tao cultivators practice virtues consistently, not conditionally. Not because, oh, you're good to me, or I'm happy, so therefore I'll express virtue or manifest it. But if I'm pissed off, or if I'm angry or whatever, then I'm going to, not manifest virtue. No, it doesn't work that way, right? So the Tao is not about fighting fire with fire, right? Okay, so in all our actions, big, small, many, or few, we must respond to negativity with virtue. It is not about getting even or about vengeance. This is the way of the Tao. Right? Remember chapter 62, right? We talked about, the Tao doesn't find blame or fault, right? With people who don't believe in the Tao, or don't care about Tao, or don't say, right? Okay, or don't even know about the Tao. Okay. So it is never about who started it, Rather, it's about what we can control and do. Yeah, that's okay. That's the key. This is our great concern. This applies whether it's big or little things. No matter what, we always treat people with kindness and virtue. Now, I know it's difficult. This is not easy, obviously. But if we do this, then we are really truly enlightened beings, okay, or virtuous beings, okay, bodhisattvas, if you will, okay. Whether it's in the big things or little things, whether with many people or few, or many issues or few, okay, we are simply kind and virtuous, no matter what people say or do to us. Because now we're dealing with negativity. It has to, it usually come from people. I mean, we can have negativity, either negative results from inanimate, from dealing with inanimate matter, or not, other matters that not dealing with people. But let's talk about people dealing with people. It makes it easier. Okay, so that's where the negativity, okay, with dealing with people is. We are always consistent with different people. We treat everyone with the same kindness and virtue. All right, there's a historical story between two kingdoms, Wei and Chu, during the Warring States period, roughly 2300 years ago. All right. So let me see. Let me go to the story. Okay. Oops. Let me go to the story. All right. Okay. The story goes something like this. Okay. I'm going to do it very quick because I'm already half an hour into this and I'm still in section 1. Okay. Okay. There are these two kingdoms, Wei and Chu. They have a border. They share a common border. Now, along that border, there are many, it's very fertile land, and there are a lot of farms, okay, on both sides. And the farmers on both kingdoms, both sides of the border, they're famous for growing a particular, what's the story? Melon, particular type of melon. Okay, I don't know what kind of melon. I don't think it's watermelon, but it's melon, some kind of melon. Okay, now, it just so happens that in this particular section of the border, the true farmers, the Wei farmers are very successful and very prosperous because they were able to somehow cultivate their melon plants to produce bountiful, harvest and big and juicy, melons or whatever. Okay. Whereas on the other side of the border, on the Chu kingdom, the melon farmers there somehow can't get their act right, and they have poor yields, small melons and not sweet or not juicy, dry melons, just bad melons. And so they can't compete against their neighbors across the border in the Wei kingdom. So some farmers on the Chu kingdom became very jealous, envious of the success of the farmers in the Wei kingdom. So what happened was this: at night, they conspire to sneak across the border, because the border is not fenced in or whatever. It's all farmland over there. They sneaked in to the Wei kingdom melon farmers, and started destroying the plants, the melon plants. Just slashing, destroy, burning, whatever. Just because they're jealous. They're envious of their success. Then they sneak back out. Now this is done at night. So then in the morning, the farmers in the Wei kingdom woke up and say, "Oh my God, what happened? Our crops got destroyed. Our livelihood." So what happened is this: the Wei farmers said, "Hey, some farmers in Chu have done something against us. They're backstabbers. They're treating rudely." Okay. So now, what would the typical response would be if you are a typical human? I mean, typical, based on human nature. I was get even, right? We want get even, vengeance, right? Revenge, seek reprisal, strike back, get even, give them a dose of their own medicine, requite the like for the like, do unto them what they did unto you, etc., etc. Right? That's the golden rule, right? Do unto them what they did unto you, right? So that's an eye for an eye, right? Stuff like that. Okay. So that's the typical human nature response, right? Okay, well, so the farmers at the Wei Kingdom got really ticked off and we started, gathering together and wanted to strike back. So they made a petition, but they didn't, at least they has, it was not like a mob justice, but they at least asked the king of Wei, say, we like to petition the king that you seek reprisal, seek some, action against the, the kingdom of Chu because of what they did to us. Now, wait. Okay, so what happens is this: if we do this, if we follow this normal human nature type of reaction, what are we going to get? It's going to be constant competition, conflict, right? It's going to be like that, right? Tit for tat, right? You slap me once, I slap you twice. You slap me twice, I slap you 3 times, et cetera, right? Whatever, okay, whatever. Now, the king of Wei was very wise, for what he said? He goes, yes, we must strike back. We must seek reprisal. But, no. He said, yes, we must do something. He says, we must do something. And yes, we will do something. We will sneak in there, sneak across the border at midnight, just like they did, and we will strike back. We will hit them where it hurts. And so the farmers are very happy. They say, yeah, that's what we want. But then that's the first half. But then the second half, he said, but there's a condition. We're not going to do what they did to you. We're not going to tear up their melon vines or crops and whatever, destroy their crops. We're not going to do that. Then the farmers are saying, what? What kind of reprisal is this? And then it gets better. The king added more. He goes, as a matter of fact, not only will we not destroy their crops, but we know what we'll do? We'll water the crops and we'll plant our seeds. We'll make their plants even better. We'll help them. We'll help the farmers of the Chu Kingdom to make their crops become better than than what they have now. Become like ours. The farmers now are really scratching and saying, "What kind of reprisal is this? That's what are we doing?" But nevertheless, they agree. They follow the king, okay, because the king is a wise king. So they're willing to give the king a benefit of the doubt. So the Tao response is like the king of Wei. He says, let's water the melon plants. Here's what does that mean? That action, that simple action, just means it demonstrated awareness. Yeah, they know them to demonstrate to the true farmers, the farmers of Chu Kingdom, that, hey, we know what you did, but we forgive you. We respond you with kindness and virtue. Okay, anyway, yeah, that's pretty interesting. Right? Okay, so guess what happened? So they did that. At night, they sneaked in midnight. They did that. They watered. They give them, anyway, and then they sneak back down. Okay, now the two farmers woke up and say, hey, what's going on? Nothing happened. Hey. And then word got around to the king of the Chu Kingdom, the King Chu or whatever. Okay. And he felt kind of embarrassed. He's like saying, wow, we have a bunch of rowdy, rowdy vigilante farmers on my side, in my kingdom, raiding, my neighbors' farms and doing bad things. Now the Wei King knows about it. Now I feel embarrassed. All the other kings in the other kingdoms going to say, hey, what kind of king are you, man? You can't even control your own farmers. Anyway, so he felt embarrassed and he felt very ashamed, very ashamed. So his response was to what? So and also he realized that, hey, that the king of the Wei Kingdom is a truly wise king. He did not seek reprisal, right? To requite the like for the like. So he must be a worthy king to be allies with, to be friends with. Yeah. So what he did, the king of the Chu Kingdom decided to send a delegation to the court of the Wei Kingdom and ask to establish a diplomatic relationship, etc., etc. So what the outcome becomes that you get, well, in this story, you get diplomatic relations and you get win over friends and allies. So it's a win-win. So, just like in chapter, chapter 61, right? We talked about it, right? Okay, chapter 61 about win-win, right? Okay, the big kingdom, small kingdom, right? Right? Big kingdom, small kingdom, right? So it's the same idea here. The same Tao principles as applied here. And now this is based on historical record. This is not a made-up story, okay? About to illustrate the principle of the Tao. No, it's not. It's based on a real story, believe it or not. Okay, I mean it's historical. Okay, all right. So that's what you will. So that's what Lao Tzu was hinting at, saying, hey, if we could do this, this is a win-win for everybody. Okay, so it's pretty good, huh? Pretty interesting. Anyway, all right. That's Appendix A, right? Okay, yeah. Okay. So. Oh my God. Okay. I'm going to warn you guys, I'm going to take probably 75 minutes. All right. Okay. I'm going to go through this quick now. This is now, okay, but this is the most, I don't say most important, but this is the most practical part of the Tao Te Ching. Okay. I think of the entire classic. Okay. This section 2, phrases 6 to 11. Okay. So here's the phrase 6 and 7. Okay. So plan difficult tasks through the simplest task. Achieve large tasks through the smallest task. Now he's going into diving deep into the analysis. All right. Okay. All right. So yeah, this is, sounds very simple, right? I mean, it sounds kind of obvious. I don't know, maybe obvious. Okay. So no matter the things we do, big, small, many, a few, right? From the previous phrase or previous line. Okay. We need to start with the simplest tasks. Okay. So he's telling us what to do. He's giving, okay. So all tasks, big, small, many, few, doesn't matter, can be done by doing the simplest ones first. Okay, so this is because all tasks, big, small, many, few, can be broken into simple parts and the difficult parts. Yeah, you can. Okay. The key is being able to do this. Okay, or having the wisdom or knowledge or understanding to do this. Okay, so the further understanding is that this is contrary to the idea of tackling the most difficult, troublesome, and time-consuming task first, due to the idea that you need to finish the most difficult task first so that all the remaining tasks will be easier by comparison. Okay, I think in psychology or whatever, in a lot of these self-improvement seminars and stuff, they call it swallowing the frog. I think that's what they say in the morning, when the first thing in the morning, you swallow the frog, the biggest, ugliest frog, because that's that's a metaphor for tackling the most difficult, task that you have for that day or whatever, okay? Or, difficult affair, matter, whatever, problem, issue, whatever, that day. And then by the end of the day, when you get very tired and everything, or throughout the day, all the other tasks will be easy to deal with, even though you'll be tired, whatever. Okay, that's a logic. Okay, anyway, all right. Anyway, okay, all right. Then let's look at the second phrase is achieve large tasks to a small task. Okay, so basic meaning is this: a large task, such as a large complex project, may seem overwhelming when you try to take it all at once, obviously, right? A huge task, okay? All right, okay. So another way of saying is, in reality, though, a large complex project always and must be composed of many small projects or sub-projects, they call them. These small projects are handled by different teams, not by one person or team, okay? So that's the idea. I mean, if you have like IT conversion projects or whatever, you get the idea, or just reorgs or whatever, it doesn't matter, okay? Converting a plant or doing whatever, okay? So making changes throughout the country, reforming whatever systems or institutions. It's the same idea, okay? All right. So on the second phrase, another meaning is that the small projects themselves are always composed of many different tasks as well. So this, you can subdivide even further. It's like in physics, we have quantum physics, it goes even further, more minute. Okay, same idea. That's nature. Okay, so the small tasks themselves are also composed of subtasks and all that. So you can keep dividing. So it's like fractal. It's like a fractal. Okay, you just keep dividing. Okay, all right. So the deep understanding is this: any grand undertaking or large difficult task can be done one small task at a time or one small project at a time. Okay, for example, the Great Wall. Right? If you look at the entire Great Wall, that's I don't know. They say it's they say 10,000 li, which is a third of a mile or half a kilometer, 5,000 kilometers, which is roughly 3,000 miles or so, a little over 3,000. And that's roughly the act. Well, I mean, it differs. Some people say it's more than 3,000 plus miles because they have overlaps and all that stuff. Okay, double walls and stuff. But the Great Wall was built. Well, I mean, this is more poetic, brick by brick, but it was section by section. That's what during the warring period, when during the Qing dynasty, the self-declared first emperor Qin Shi Wang, or Huangdi, Qin Shi Huangdi, he built his section under his kingdom, but then other kingdoms were building their sections too, and then he just connected them all together. All right, so that's how it works. Okay, built by. So the Great Pyramid of Giza was built one stone block at a time, right? I mean, it wasn't built, overnight. It took 10, 20 years, they say, or something like that. Anyway, okay, so, all right. So this is also true in Tao cultivation, okay? We start with the simple concepts and tasks and build on them over time as we progress on our journey of cultivation, all right? So that's why, okay? So that's why you have these different classes, right? Okay, different levels, all right? Okay, so this phrase is the blueprint for succeeding at anything we do. Any large task is composed of many small tasks. This is the nature of all things. So this phrase and chapter is perhaps the most practical. Okay, so anything we do, big, small, many, few, doesn't matter. All right. Okay, so these two phrases, right, 6 and 7, right? Okay, seem so simple. It seems so simple. It's only like 10 characters, okay, but contain profound and powerful wisdom, which we'll see in the next 4 phrases. All right. So this concept is very helpful in our Tao cultivation. Okay. All right. Okay. So the next 4 phrases, that's still in section 2. Okay. That's the analysis section. So the first 2 is this: the difficult tasks of the world must be handled through the simple task. Okay. That's just a further distillation of this first 2 phrases. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So the basic meaning of this line is, I'm not going to go into, okay, so that's just means that now these 2 phrases expand on and emphasize the 2 previous phrases. So that is all the difficult tasks of the world begins with the easiest and simplest task. Okay. So this line gives a solution for overcoming procrastination. Or you can say inertia. Okay. How do you know you have overcome procrastination or inertia? Only when you actually start doing something you have been putting off and continue doing it. Okay, that's how you know. Okay, all right. Okay, that's how you overcome inertia. So the more you do the simple task, the key is you start with the simple task. You will find it will become easier and easier to keep doing the simple task until it becomes natural for you to speed along. Yeah, okay. So it's like in cooking or whatever, it doesn't matter, or doing anything, doing at work, anything. Okay. That is when you know the procrastination is gone for good. This is why this method always works. It's the easiest way to start anything, by doing the simplest task first. Okay. That's the key. That's the key. All right. So how do you prove that for yourself? So find something you've been putting off, avoiding, or postponing. Okay. Just find something. Okay. Now, first step, break it down to individual action items. You have to break it down. Okay, that's dividing it up. Then, second step is find the simplest action item and decide, is this something you can do right away? That's the key. Okay, find the simplest action and decide that. If so, if you can do it right away, take action on it. If not, and here's the loop. Okay, here's the loop. If not, you go back to step 1 and then break down that action item even further. Break down the action items further. Yeah, break it down even further. Subdivide it even more, right? That's the fractal approach, okay? All right, okay. So the implication is this: for all difficult tasks, begin with the easiest tasks first. this will allow you to complete it. At least you can say, hey, I did something, even though it's the easiest. That's okay. Okay. It's a baby steps. All right. So the key is for any difficult task of the world, you must start with their easiest and simplest task first. That's the best method for accomplishing the difficult task. Okay. So now then the last two phrases of this section, section 2, is the large tasks of the world must be handled through the small. Okay. Remember the previous, it says the difficult task. One, the first two, the two phrases prior to this one talks about the difficult tasks of the world must be handled through the simplest. So difficult and simple. All right. So that's the yin and yang. Okay. Now in this one, he's about large and small. So he's saying the large tasks of the world must be handled through the small. Okay. So the yin and the yang. Okay. Are, the opposites. Okay. So basically it's this. This phrase or this line is similar to the previous two phrases. Okay. So these two phrases again expand on and emphasize phrase 6 and 7. That is to plan the difficult task with the simplest task, achieve the. Okay. So that means that, hey, this repetition of phrases 6 and 7 means that, it's an important idea. That's what allows us to repeat it twice. Okay. So it's important. Okay. So we should take notice. Okay. So if there is a task that is too big to handle now, okay, we're talking about large tasks. It is only because you have not broken it down into smaller bite-sized tasks. Okay. So now this works because why? One, small, easy tasks can be completed quickly, right? I mean, completed, either immediately or quickly. All right. Okay. And completion gives you a sense of satisfaction, of earned satisfaction. Say, hey, yeah, you deserve it. Okay. You deserve the satisfaction. Okay. Or you deserve this moment of celebration because you completed something, right? Okay. So what happens is that then it becomes a positive energy that you can use. We call it momentum. Okay. So by applying it you can apply it to the next small, easy task. So you get momentum. That's how you generate, we say energy, momentum. Okay. That's how you generate it. Okay. Now, so this is an iterative process that builds greater and greater momentum, i.e. positive energy. Okay. Then at some point, you will discover you are over the hump. That is, we say the hump of procrastination or whatever. Okay. Or whatever. Okay. We are over the hump. That is, it is actually harder to stop or slow down than to keep going. That's the amazing thing. Okay. So once we generate that momentum, the more little things we do, the smallest things we do first, it adds up. The whole idea means it adds up. It adds up. So it builds to a greater momentum. Just like the waves of the ocean. It starts out with small little ripples. Then the ripples keep building up to small waves. Small waves build up to medium waves. Medium waves build up to tall waves. Okay, that's how it works. All right. Okay, that's nature. And so Lao Tzu is saying, giving us a formula, saying, hey, here's the formula. This is how it works. This is how it works in nature. Well, this is how we deal with things too in this world. Okay. All right. So the implication is this. All right. This method works because as you progress, you accumulate energy, momentum, satisfaction, and excitement in working on something. You say, hey, I achieved something. Yeah, this is great. This is fun. Okay. So your ability to handle larger and more difficult tasks will continue to increase from doing the small bite-sized chunks better and better. You get better, more proficient, more skill. That's how you accumulate skills. You get that. Okay. The small bite tasks will not become tedious. Now, some people say, oh, it becomes tedious. That's not true because they will be dynamic with shifting priorities as situations and things are. Even though they may be small tasks and they may seem, oh, they're identical. That's not true because every moment to moment, as situation evolves, the task will vary slightly, will vary. That's how you can say variation. It will change slightly. Okay. So that's how you learn something new every time. Okay. All right. Okay, so all the small, easy tasks are not identical, nor the same over the course of the work. Let's use an example of the dominoes. Okay, this is a very interesting example. Okay, let's start with the smallest task and then move on to the next smallest and then so on. Okay, so imagine, substitute the task for like dominoes. Okay, I mean, small tasks, one after another, except that the dominoes get bigger and bigger. So it's called the domino effect. Oh, you heard of the domino effect? All right. Okay. So that's the easiest way to overcome procrastination or inertia. Okay, let's go to B. Okay, here, domino effect, right? The domino effect. Okay, all right. Start with the smallest domino, something that you can knock over just by barely touching it, Okay, you don't even have to use any strength at all. Okay, so that's the smallest domino. So as the domino falls, it generates what? Kinetic energy, right? Kinetic energy. That's right? Because it's an emotion, right? That's physics, right? Mechanics, right? Okay, so it's gonna that even though it's the smallest domino, but it'll generate kinetic energy. That's acceleration, okay, to knock over a larger one. Let's say the next larger one is 50% bigger than the smallest domino. So it's significant. It's 50% bigger. It doesn't matter. I mean, we use 50 because it's easier. Okay, I mean, you could say 10% bigger. It doesn't matter. Okay, 50% larger. Now, so this is what happens. So then the next one, so let's say the first domino is only 2 inches tall, right? Yeah, that's about the size of a domino, right? So the next one is going, so the one 50% bigger, the second one is going to be 3 inches tall, right? Because it's 50% bigger. Then the next one, the third domino, is going to be what? 50% of 3 inches is what? 1.5. So it's 4.5 inches taller. Okay, so you get the idea. It's going to get bigger as each domino. So this is a geometric progression. Okay, so the size increase can be dramatic. People, you don't realize that because it's geometric progression. So the first domino can be just 2 inches tall. By the 10th one, do you know that? It will be over 6 feet tall or over 72 inches tall. Yeah, from 2 inches to 7. By the 10th domino, okay? So this can be expressed by the following equation. I don't want to go into math here. They use this in finance too, but also in physics. Okay, all right. So that's what this is. Where x is inertial, r is rate of increase in percent. In this case, 50%. N is the nth iteration. Y is the end value. Okay, so if we do this, if let's say we start with a domino that's 2 inches tall, and the next domino that it's gonna take down is 50% of the previous size. Okay, the previous. So and I keep going. Okay, so if you do this, guess what? By the 18th domino, that's the n is 18 right here. That's the 18th power. See, because that's geometric. Okay, 18th power. You know how tall that domino would be? It'll be the height of the tower pizza, which is like what? I don't know, 100 something feet. I forgot, something like that, or less than 100, about 100 feet or so. Anyway, okay, I think it's over 100 feet. Anyway, but then by the 23rd domino, that's to the 23rd power, it's going to be taller than the Eiffel Tower. That's about what? 1,000 feet? Is it almost 1,000 feet, right? I think it's about almost. By the 31st domino, it's going to be higher than Mount Everest. Now, nobody, did this with dominoes because just, it's probably too difficult to do. But anyway, but you get the idea, okay? It's the power of the geometric power. So this is exactly like that with Lao Tzu's method. You start with something small, the tiniest one, and then you end up with something big, okay? So this process is sequential. Each step builds on the step. So the key is you have to be consistent and persistent, yeah? Consistent and persistent, okay? Or persevere, okay? Be constant and persevere. Now, we'll talk about that, a little bit of that in chapter 64, okay? So let's go back. I'm running out of time, right? Okay, I'm running out of time. I want to finish this. So we're on section 3 now. So we're okay. We're okay. Okay, so what is this? This is appendix B. Is it appendix B? Yeah, hold on. Geez. Yeah, where are we? Okay, where are we? Okay, yes. Okay, appendix B. All right. Okay, let's go. Okay. All right. So the key point is this. The key point is this. This method is very useful in the Tao cultivation, okay? Because we will encounter major obstacles, bottlenecks, or problems, okay, during our Tao cultivation. So by connecting with the methods of those who have broken through such difficulties, like people who've done it before, right? Or who've encountered similar issues before, we can find the simple and easy way forward. Okay, let's go to summary. Okay, So takeaway is this. One of the takeaways is this. Use this chapter's advice to help you achieve greatness, just like the sages. 1, plan out all the things that you have to do. So you have to balance meticulous preparation, though, with a flexible approach. So your plan cannot be rigid. Okay? All right? It can be fairly detailed, but it has to be flexible also. Okay? So you have to balance. Okay? 2, pick the smallest and easiest items you can get out of the way quickly. Okay? So when you plan out the things, you have to list all the, your action items or whatever, detail, yes, but, try to get to the smallest, pieces, be very fine, very fine, it's a fine, very fine, I would say read the fine print type of thing, but very refined plan. That means it goes down to the lowest possible details that you can do. Okay. But you have to be flexible too. Okay. And then pick the smallest and easiest items that you can get out of quickly. So it's like looking for the lowest hanging fruits. Okay. What's the easiest to do? If you can do it right. But if you don't have anything small or easy, that's because you have not broken the things even further down. So it's like a fractal approach. Okay. Then the third step is generate energy momentum. Okay. It's that once you revved up, when you do the first tiniest item, then you do the next. You build up momentum and energy, et cetera, et cetera. So then it becomes easier and easier. Then soon you will be done and happy. So that's the approach. Okay. So that's the idea. All right. So let's go to, okay. All right. Okay. Let's go to, here's the concluding. Okay. Oh, I only have 10, 15 minutes. Okay. I'll do it. All right. So therefore, this is the conclusion now. Section 3. Therefore, the sages never attempt great deeds, okay, all through life. Thus, they can achieve great deeds. It's like, huh? Okay, right? So, right, to act with non-action, right? Or that's the act without action, right? Okay, that's what it is. Okay. Anyway, all right. So, okay, so what does that mean? The basic meaning is this. On the external side, it means sages never try to take on too much at a time. Sages do not try to be great or try to do something great. That's called the contrivance. Okay, so they never attempt to say, "Oh, I'm gonna, do this great thing," stuff like that. Okay, they don't do that. They don't say that. Okay, so another way is that saying this: sages never bite off more than they can chew. They do not try to take on something they know is overwhelmingly large or difficult. Yeah, that. Okay, anyway, because that's not their approach. Okay, this is the idea. So what happens is this. What sages handle at any given moment is always the smallest and easiest thing to be done. Their focus is on the small, simple things, not the grand things. Very interesting. Okay. And here's why. But we say, oh, but sages accomplish great things. Yes, that's true. But the irony is that they accomplish great things because they don't try to attempt to do great things in the first place. So how do they get there though? How do they end up achieving great things? Because they only do the smallest things first. That's all they do. They do the smallest things, but because they accumulate, that's how it ends up. Okay, so that's the idea. All right. So the internal means is that sages never consider themselves as great. They do not make any attempt to call themselves great. They remain humble. Now the sages, we should substitute. We should say it's no. I'll do that. That's the deeper understanding. But that's what they do. Okay, internally they don't consider themselves great because they don't have that ego. They have no ego, remember? Okay. They're totally non-self. Okay. All right. So they remain humble, right? Okay. So now the second phrase is thus they can achieve great deeds, right? Okay. It's basic meaning is that simple things add up to great achievements, right? So over time, what sages regard as small, easy, and within their abilities, we're not seen that way to most people. The perceptions of small and easy will change over time and then can become large or difficult. Okay, that's what it means. Okay, so that's why we people say, hey, they accomplished great things because even though they did very small things, it's because they do it over time, accumulated. Okay, build up them. That's where it becomes great. Okay, all right. So on the personal level, it's this. It's those who progress in a large or difficult task over time, they also advance in their own abilities. That is how they make the difficult task look effortless. Okay, so this is very important. We have to be persistent, consistent, etc. Okay, so that's once again that's incumbent. That's very important. Okay, those are necessary ingredients. Okay, so achieving greatness is the result of starting with simple, easy things that over time become great things. Okay, now the deeper understanding is that we must always be humble. That is no ego. Okay, so we can admire one's virtuous conducts, just like a silent abyss, yet resounding like thunder. One must be able to achieve this. Okay, so that's the key. We have to be very, very humble. That's why the sages are like that. Now, okay, well, yeah, I don't want to. Okay. So the higher level is this. Okay, so although you are silent like an abyss or deep valley, but by moving others by your virtuous conducts, it's like the shock of thunder. This means you must actually do it, really helping out fellow humans, so that sentient beings can also transcend the bitter sea. Okay, so that all can become Buddhas. That will generate gratitude. That is to be great. Now, there's a hit internal is that the sages represents our Buddha nature. So our Buddha nature is never arrogant, right? It's never arrogant. There's no self, right? It's selfless, right? So that's what it means. So therefore, it's naturally humble. We say humble, humility. And it's silent. It's silent. The Buddha nature doesn't brag, doesn't blow his horn, right? Okay, it doesn't do that, right? And yet, if we follow our Buddha nature in doing things, it's that silence, even though it's silent, it's like the sound of thunder. Okay. All right. So anyway, okay. So the implication is this: if people consider themselves as great, that's the flip side, then they definitely will not become great. That's it. Okay. The person who talks, why? Because the person who talks big, who brags, flaunts, and shows off the big ego, actually has little to show, has little or no substance. This is why sages and Tao cultivators will not be the big talker, because or talkers, it doesn't matter, because they are aware this is a sure sign of having little or no substance. So internally, So internally, by being humble and not considering oneself as great, and externally letting the virtuous actions do the talking, one can achieve greatness. Start by doing small, easy things one at a time. One can achieve great deed or time. That doesn't make sense. Okay, one can achieve great deeds over time. Sorry, over time. Okay, over time. All right. Okay, so one can achieve great deeds over time. I should say great deeds, plural. Let's make it plural. Okay, great deeds over time. All right. Okay, over time. Sages, by not attempting great deeds, will complete great deeds. This is the interplay between the small and great. Remember section 2 of chapter 2? Observing manifestation, where in order to have the high, there must be the low. To have the long, there must be the short. To have the difficult, there must be the easy. So this dynamic interplay can be used to accomplish whatever you want in life. Those who take on a great challenge leads to result in little success, right? By taking a great challenge right away. Okay, while those who take on a small challenge often result in great success. Okay, so that's it. Okay, now we're on the next section, the second two phrases of the last 6. Okay, so one who makes promises lightly must deserve little trust. One who sees many easy tasks must encounter much difficulty. Okay, what this means is that those who make big promises are the ones who will deliver little or nothing, and so deserves little or no trust. Those, it's a follow-on of those who are arrogant, right? Very, very, have a big ego. They will brag. They'll say, "Yeah, I can make promises. I can accomplish these big things." Well, those are ones who will not deliver. Okay, so they won't. They can't be trusted. So their credibility is zero, right? So those who make big promises are those who regard things lightly, Okay, not realizing that by thinking everything is easy, we'll soon discover that that's not the case. All right, okay, because if that's the case, then the world will be totally different, right? And everybody can do difficult things right away, right? So that's not the case. All right, so People who make promises lightly are like those who make big promises and rarely fulfill them because they regard everything as easy. They become so overconfident and don't realize how big promises are really difficult, so they cannot be trusted or are difficult to fulfill. Okay, so additional meaning is this: by not taking promises seriously, that is, making promises lightly, one can make an error in judgment about what one could do. This means one is not dependable and cannot be trusted. This often results from thinking that everything is easy, not realizing that's not always the case, right? We have become overconfident, right? Okay, so further understanding is that this is part of an idiom, that one who makes promises easily but seldom keep them. That's an idiom, okay, by the way. Someone who makes promises easily tend to treat everything lightly or frivolously and end up with difficulty keeping the promises. Just as those who see all tasks as easy, leading to overconfidence and lack of preparation, will end up encountering difficulties later and end up unable to keep their promise. So they become untrustworthy. Okay, deeper understanding on the external level is because they see everything as easy, not realizing there could be unexpected complexities and complexity. So easy will lead to difficulty. So when you have a healthy respect for the difficulty of certain tasks, you will naturally invest the time to research, learn, and plan. By the time you actually deal with the task, you'll find that you're well prepared to handle it. So difficult, by looking at things difficultly at first, leads to easy. Okay, so the internal side is this: we should never treat people lightly, that is condescending or disrespectful in our minds. That's what it means by treating things lightly. Okay, so the implication is this: if you cannot do something, then you should not make promises. If you make a promise, then you must fulfill them. If you make a promise, I should say, maybe you should say, if you make promises, okay, then you must fulfill them. Otherwise, you will deserve little trust, okay, or have no credibility. So by looking at everything as easy, being overconfident and underprepared, you will fall into the trap of making promises lightly, not able to fulfill them. Okay, so the key is this: to underpromise, being humble, that is, being humble with no ego, and overperform, that's to achieve greatness, is more like the Tao. This is because the perception of ease will lead to difficulty, just as the perception of difficulty will lead to ease. This is the same interplay between the small and large, the yin and the yang. All starts by doing the small and simple things first, maintaining a humble attitude. Okay, so let's go to summary 2. This should be the last. Oh, do I have one more? Yeah, last summary. Okay, so 3 ideas. There are 3 ideas to help you do great things with little effort. 1, definitely be wary with big talkers. Okay, be cautious when dealing with big talkers. Always treat pie in the sky claims and pipe dreams with skepticism, no matter how much you may want them to be true. 2nd, adequate preparation is key. If you regard a task as difficult, you will naturally prepare for it, right? Okay, or plan for it, okay? Then thirdly, build your confidence and skill through baby steps, small, tiny steps. The achievements, knowledge, and enlightenment are never attained in huge leaps, okay? Always one step at a time, all right? So let's go back. Let's see, this is summary 2. So we're near the end. I think we're at the end. Yeah, okay. So here's the last line, okay? So therefore, sages regard things as difficult, so they never encounter difficulties all through life. It's like a tautology, but anyway. Okay, so it's kind of, it's like an oxymoron, right? But basic meaning says, this is what sages and wise cultivators do. By default, they regard things as difficult. Remember gravitas chapter, is that 26? I think it's chapter 26. Okay, gravitas. Okay, another meaning of first phrase. This means they will, 1, never underestimate the challenge, and 2, always proceed with caution. Now, we're going to talk about this in a little bit more in chapter 64. Okay, so additional meaning of first phrase. In this manner, they increase the likelihood of their success in any endeavor. So the basic meaning is this: second phrase of never encounter difficulties all through life. This is another way to apply the central concept. If you regard everything as easy, you encounter difficulties. So another way of saying is, if you approach everything as a challenge, you end up with smooth sailing, okay? So again, this is the concept of easy. If you look at things easy or lightly at the beginning, it'll lead to difficulty. But whereas if you treat things as difficult or with seriousness, okay, or gravitas, then it'll lead to being easy, okay? So here's a deeper understanding. By dealing with all matters, even for the small things, sages regard them as difficult. So all things can be easily accomplished. So when I say difficult, it just means with gravity, with seriousness, okay? All right? Okay, so all things. So the higher understanding is this: the Buddha nature, we will never regard or treat everything lightly or frivolously. Okay, same idea. All right. Okay, so it's the sages and the Buddha nature. Okay, so the implication is this: because in the beginning you regard things as difficult or with seriousness. Okay, in the end there will be no more difficulties. Everything will then turn out easy. Okay, here's the conclusion, guys. If you regard everything as easy in the beginning, you will encounter difficulties because you will be overconfident, underprepared, and underestimate the challenges. Whereas if you approach everything as a challenge in the beginning, you will end up with no difficulties in the end. In order to end up with easy actuality, you want to start out with the perception of difficulty. Remember, it's still a perception, just a perception, because you're doing the simplest things, okay, first, all right? But if you start out with the perception of everything's easy, then you will end up with difficulties, okay? So the source of all difficulties is to regard everything as easy, because this is the fountainhead of the arising ego, which leads to underestimation, overconfidence, and under-preparation of tasks, while regarding everything as a challenge or difficulty or difficult. Whereas by being humble, no ego, you do not regard everyone and everything lightly. Remember gravitas, okay? So it's non-condescending, and you treat everything with respect, everything and everybody, okay? So this all starts by doing the simple tasks and small things, where the large tasks are achieved through small tasks. This means the difficult tasks are handled through simple tasks. The large things are handled through small things, okay? So this is how sages achieve great things, by not attempting to handle difficult things, by not making promises lightly and not fulfilling them, by not regarding everything as easy, but as a challenge. They are able to accomplish large and difficult things. This is the source of their success. This is being without difficulty. Okay, I took about 75 minutes. Okay, so this concludes chapter 63. And then we can go on to chapter 64, which is connected to this, which is a further extension of some of these basic principles in 63. I'm going to take 2 sessions in 64. So just be prepared for that. But I'll make each session short, maybe 65 minutes each. Okay. All right. So this concludes chapter 63. And if I think that things that are incorrect or wrong, I ask the Buddhas and Lao Tzu for guidance, and everybody's guidance as well. Okay. Thank you very much.